Good afternoon. My name is Vernie Reichling. I am the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Liaison Officer to the United States Special Operations Command. Prior to this position, I was an active duty U.S. Army officer in the Corps of Engineers. Today, I would like to discuss engineering and logistical requirements for Special Operations Forces in Phase 0 of strategic competition. When we think of special operations, we commonly gravitate to the role of direct action, glamorized in the stories we read and the movies that we watch. This was a byproduct of the past 20 years of war, in which special operation forces were called upon to execute many of these operations. But as our nation shifts to strategic competition with China and Russia, special operation forces will be called upon to execute all of their core activities such as civil affairs, foreign humanitarian assistance, foreign internal defense, military information support operations, security force assistance, special reconnaissance, unconventional warfare, and direct action. As we guide our research and development, I would offer you two guiding principles. First, there are 5 soft truths. Humans are more important than hardware. Quality is better than quantity. Soft cannot be mass produced. Competent soft cannot be created after emergencies occur. And most soft operations require non-soft support. My assessment is that we should always keep in mind number 1, 2, and 5. They are humans are more important than hardware. Quality is better than quantity. And most special operations require non-soft support. The second guiding principle is that typical soft operator is married with at least 2 kids, age range between 29 and 34, has 8 years of experience in general purpose forces, receives training in cultural and language, has attended multiple advanced tactical schools, is a problem solver, well educated, and is a thinking athlete. This is an important demographic, as it highlights that most are Generation Y, or commonly referred to as millennials. Why is this important? Because a generation is marked with elevated usage of and familiarity with internet, mobile devices, and social media. The U.S. SOCOM operating concept of 2030 describes the environment in which Special Operations Forces will operate over the next 5 to 15 years. In line with the National Defense Strategy, SOF will be focused on countering the great powers of China and Russia while simultaneously maintaining its efforts to counter violent extremist organizations. By 2030, all domains, air, land, maritime, space, cyberspace, electromagnetic spectrum, and information will be contested, and SOF will be heavily engaged in competition below the level of armed conflict. SOF will conduct globally integrated special operations, responding to an increasingly trans-regional character of challenges, threats, and adversaries as part of the joint globally integrated operations. SOF will expand the appreciation and orientation of operational objectives more broadly and across all domains as part of the global campaign. Although SOF effects extend through all phases of joint operations, most SOF effects originate during Phase 0, steady state operations. To execute, SOF will develop hyper-enabled teams, combining SOF professionals with partners and technical experts, networked and equipped to operate in multi-domain environment and an increasing variety of partners. SOF must achieve levels of proficiency in global maneuver, command and control, and sustainment in order to be successful in the future. Objective is a principle of war and fundamental principle of the joint force. Loosely referred to as the X in special operations, objectives were historically considered in terms of physical domain. The future X will now encompass all domains, physical, virtual, and cognitive. This will shape the way we fight in the future. Operating in the contested zone will require small footprints that are more responsive, adaptive, and require little external support, which is in sharp contrast to today. For 20 years in operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, the overall strategy is to sustain SOF operations focused on operating from large base camps and forward operating bases linked to other general purpose forces. This strategy requires significant augmentation from the general purpose forces to build, operate, sustain, and protect these base camps. As we look to the future against near peer competitors conducted dynamically and transregionally, the ability to sustain forward base troops will be essential, but it will require a different approach. This will be especially true in supporting low visibility, clandestine, and covert activities in globally disparate locations. The spectrum of soft basing will span from overt to low visibility as it operates within the contact, blunt, and surge layers of the global operating model. Meeting the requirements of that operating model and sustaining software organizations will increasingly require a mix of traditional and non-conventional basing strategies, concepts, and technologies to be effective, responsive, and flexible. The Joint Force has formally documented basing techniques in Joint Publication 4-04, Contingency Basing. This document reflects DoD policies and clearly defines the approach services will take to base general purpose forces during conflict. The services focus on technologies improving large base camps constrains SOF to the same approach, failing to address how smaller footprint forces, particularly those employed dynamically, will base during great power competition. As mentioned earlier, current basing concepts were developed over years of conflict with a focus on general purpose forces, recently refined during operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Services invested heavily in technology to sustain these base camps during that time. Less development went into the concepts and technologies of low visibility, small footprint, and clandestine basing, which requires austere, stealthy, discrete, and quickly erected and disassembled techniques. Our problem is that we lack flexible and adaptable, low visibility basing policies, concepts, technologies, and resources. This creates a disadvantage for SOF in the great power competition requirements of the National Defense Strategy and the SOF operating concept of 2030, where development of low visibility basing policies, concepts, technologies, and resources could create a competitive SOF advantage. In 2018, we conducted Generation X austere basing workshop. They developed basing requirements and support special operations, counter-violent extremist operations. On the left side of the chart are the capabilities that we, SOF engineers, thought were necessary to sustain the force. We focused on four main categories: power, sanitation, clean water, and construction materials and methods. But as we shift to strategic competition, are these the right capabilities? The answer may be yes and no. The speed of relevance will increasingly require SOF to operate from adaptable and flexible initial bases where use of organic equipment, existing and/or temporary structures that can be transferred to or disposed of by partner forces gives us an advantage. These highly flexible bases will be augmented with information technology, utilities, force protection, additional structures, or any other of a number of required enablers in order to operate for a short time and then displace to the next location. Depending on the operating environment, units might operate from a hotel, a warehouse, a hangar, or set up on bare ground in a natural area. So they require base camp technologies that apply in all of those situations, are rapidly assembled, fulfill all mission requirements, are rapidly disassembled, and easily transportable by organic equipment. We still think that units will require solutions for power, water, sanitation, and construction materials and methods that are minimally invasive to the local environment. Not only does this comply with law and policy, it also provides a layer of protection by reducing signature. SOCOM is prepared to partner with the R&D community on sustaining technologies that assist in solving these urgent needs of power, water, sanitation, and construction. The U.S. Army Special Operations Command, USASOC, has persistent and recurring presence in many areas around the globe, in addition to growth areas. Some of those persistent areas include Fort Bliss, Texas, White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico, Yuma Proving Grounds, Arizona, Key West, Florida, and Germany. They also have recurring presence in Central and South America and Africa. One growth area is Alaska and the Arctic. Your main points of contact for partnering opportunities would be Lieutenant Colonel Levi Sutton, who is the branch chief for operational engineering and the command engineer at US SOCOM, and as an alternate, myself. I thank you for the opportunity today to present, and I look forward to your questions and discussions. Thank you.